Jalen Hood-Schifino is off to a strong start at Summer League in Las Vegas, but neither Trayce Jackson Davis nor Race Thompson have played yet. We'll get you the latest updates on them and their injuries and the chances of seeing them play this week.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. You are Locked On Hoosiers, the one and only daily IU podcast. We're part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Free and available anywhere you guys are tuning into us at today, including on YouTube. Throw us a subscribe over there. If you guys like the new look show, basically, that we have between the graphics and our new background, let me know what you guys think of that. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Rude. We're going to talk some Hoosiers in the NBA. And I know it's a subject everybody might not always like, but there is a fair amount of news that's gone on in the last week, including Summer League updates. 3 Hoosiers were supposed to, I guess, be competing in the Las Vegas Summer League. Only one of them has actually played a game there. It's Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's actually played 2 games in Vegas so far. Played on Friday against the Warriors in what was going to be a showdown against Trayce Jackson Davis, but Trayce Jackson Davis has been out with a hamstring injury. We'll update on that here in a bit. Jalen wasn't great in that game, but he bounced back on Sunday, had 15 points, 5 assists on 5 of 10 shooting for the Lakers, who are 2-0. One of the things I think has been most notable about his performances in Summer League is how much he is benefiting from the spacing of the NBA. Something I kind of talked about when talking about his game on other Lakers podcasts. I don't know how much I mentioned it here. IU's offense was not one that had much spacing last year. And with Miller Kopp being the only guy having any sort of shooting gravity, which meant that his numbers at the rim looked awful, but he was also always driving into lanes that had 3, 4, 5 defenders in them. So your chances of looking good at that point are slim to none. Anyway, you can tell in the NBA with more shooting around him, a more modern offense, he actually does have a nice game at getting to the rim and finishing there. And it's just something he couldn't show at Indiana. And that's been on display throughout Summer League, including on Sunday. He's come into his own a little bit. It's been a little bit of a slow start, but it's like that a lot of times with rookies. It's very rare for rookies to just absolutely hit the ground running in Summer League. More often than not, they have these struggles. And then when you're a second-year guy playing in the Summer League, you look dominant. If things go right, you struggle year 1, you're dominant year 2. And that's what you kind of hope the plan is for Jalen Hood-Schifino. You hope the plan is that he's so good he doesn't play in year 2. But right now he's struggled, but he's shown signs of potential. And really, he put together a whole game on Sunday that was really strong. He's been really good defensively as well. When IU was healthy briefly, they had that really aggressive man-to-man defense that would pick teams up at half court. I always think back to that UNC game. IU couldn't really do that once Xavier got hurt, but the Lakers are doing that, and Jalen being at the center of that I don't think is a coincidence in both instances. Let's do updates on Trayce and Race. Trayce has not played any Summer League games yet, either at the California Classic or in Vegas, because of a hamstring strain. Now, admittedly, I was a little skeptical, and I thought he had been sitting out because after the second game at the California Classic, his 4-year contract was announced, and I thought, oh, he's sitting out until that got announced. Smart move by him. That wasn't the case. He actually is injured. He does have a hamstring injury. He talked to reporters Sunday during shoot-around and said it's just kind of a little injury. It's Summer League. There's absolutely no reason to risk it, so he hasn't been. He's been working on it, and they're expecting him to make his debut this week. He will play on Wednesday and Thursday, and he's expecting to be cleared potentially on Wednesday or Thursday. So he could be looking at 2 games, 1 game. We'll see, but there's also going to be a game after that. They kind of play one playoff game of sorts. I don't know the exact format, but he will have potentially 3 games he could still play at Summer League in Las Vegas. So he took part in shoot around, was doing everything in shoot around on Sunday. I think they're just being extra cautious because there's no reason to have him injured going into kind of working out this summer. So we may see him later this week. Hopefully, knock on wood, we will see him at least 1 or 2 times this week with the Warriors. Trayce Thompson, the news isn't as optimistic. He did not even travel with the Knicks to Summer League because of what the team said is a sore right knee. We obviously know he's had knee issues during his time at Indiana. He's not even going to be available to play in the Summer League. So he will not be playing at the Vegas Summer League, which is a really tough blow. He was someone that needed to prove himself. He needed to play in these games to show that he had something to bring to the NBA game. It's a tough blow for him to just not even get that chance during Summer League. So that one stings a bit more than the Trayce injury. We'll see. He could still play in the G League, and maybe he has some type of deal worked out with the Knicks that he can play for their G League team, or maybe they're going to bring him in for training camp as an extra body and then have him sign with the G League team. We'll see. It's just otherwise kind of a tough break for him that he had an opportunity and injury kind of sidelined him or derailed him. I think he very much, I think, could play in the G League. It's just a matter if he wants to spend a year in the G League where he's closer to home and in front of more kind of NBA scouts, but the pay isn't going to be as good as it was overseas, or if he just wants to try to go carve out a career overseas and see what happens over there. It's going to be a choice that we'll obviously see what he makes. I think a lot of guys fresh out of college go try to pave their route through the G League just because they're closer to home and give it as good of a try as they can. But everybody's different. And Trayce has spent a number of years in college. I don't know how much he wants to kind of toil away and try to make it work in the NBA. So I'm just mainly hoping for him to get healthy, because this is a bummer of a injury, bummer timing on this injury that is going to keep him out of Summer League. I want to have a discussion about Romeo Langford, someone that is a free agent, and he's in an interesting spot right now. So I want to talk about where he is in the NBA, what his career has looked like, and whether he left Indiana too soon. I think there's an interesting debate to be had there. So we'll do all that here in a moment. Let's talk about a sponsor, or the sponsor of today's episode, Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you guys look good because they're stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. That's because their regular shorts, or most regular shorts, are made of kind of that stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that it makes it look like khaki pants, but they stretch. You get the best of both worlds. They also use anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So show yourself wearing Bird Dog, head out and put on some Bird Dogs. Show them to all your friends this summer, whether you're going swimming, whether you're going to a cookout, whether you're going golfing, whatever it may be. Bird Dogs are the perfect short to just go hang out in. If you're lounging around at home, if you're doing some yard work, whatever it may be, these are the perfect short for you. If you go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege and enter promo code LockedOnCollege, you'll get a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order as well. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or promo code LockedOnCollege for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off, we promise. Big thanks to all you guys for making us your first listen every single day of the week. Every dayers later this week on Wednesday, we're going to talk IU basketball recruiting. IU's been out there and doing a lot of recruiting, but it hasn't, like, they're not offering guys. Nobody's committing. It's just a lot of watching guys. And so we'll get you an update, but there's not a lot to update on. But we can do that on Wednesday, just kind of get the latest of who could be making decisions here in the coming weeks and months before school gets back underway. Let's talk Romeo Langford. He's not someone we talk a lot about on this show. I don't spend a ton of time on the NBA in general. And when I do, his name hasn't really come up because he has admittedly had an underwhelming NBA career, to say the least. Picked number 14 overall. He has struggled to ever really find a role in the NBA and was traded by the Celtics and was waived by the Spurs this offseason, which leaves him in an interesting situation. There are no rumors about him. I've looked, I've paid attention. He has no kind of links. Nobody's actively searching to sign him. He doesn't have any competition in that regard. It's too late to play Summer League. He also just wouldn't play Summer League. Guys going into their 5th year don't really play in Summer League. It's kind of viewed as below them. To a certain degree it is. I don't really know what he could do in Summer League to prove anything, but it's too late regardless. I don't think he would have, which leaves him in a spot where at best he's going to be brought in to compete for a training camp spot. Like, he's going to be training camp rosters go up to 20 and you have to trim it down to 15 by the first game of the season. That's an extra 5 spots per team. He'll probably get one of those 5 spots somewhere. And at that point, he's competing to beat out somebody likely on a guaranteed contract, a very uphill battle. He's another one that's going to be in an interesting situation. We talked about Trayce Thompson and what path he's going to take. Romeo Langford at this point in his NBA career is probably going to have to go down to the G League and prove himself, wait for the right opportunity, and take advantage of that. I think back to someone, as a lot of you know, I cover the Lakers as kind of my other job. And they had a situation a couple years ago where Stanley Johnson was another player taken really high in the draft. He was a bust. He went down to the G League, played some games, showed what he had, found an opportunity. It was during the COVID season when guys were getting COVID and they were offering out 10-day contracts. He signed a 10-day contract with the Lakers, took advantage of that opportunity, found a role with the team. It was an entirely different role. He was a wing player. He was playing as a small ball center for the Lakers. He adapted, figured some things out, and earned a couple extra years in the NBA off of that. That's what you're looking at what Romeo's going to have to do now. I think he'll probably have to go to the G League, show that he has something, and then wait for an opportunity to come and pounce on it and take full advantage of it if he wants to see his NBA career continue. But I saw a question, I believe, on Twitter as it was announced the Spurs were waiving Romeo. Was it a mistake when he left Indiana? I would first say the very simple answer is no, because he has about $19 million just off his NBA contracts in his bank account. I know taxes factor into that, but he's made $19 million in NBA contracts. Generational wealth. It's a no. That it was not a mistake to go pro. If your worst case scenario is you make $19 million, not counting anything else, you're set. It was the right decision. If I offered you a chance to make $19 million right now and say you're going to be a failure at that by making $19 million, I think all of you would take that. I would take that. You can call me whatever you want. If I have $19 million, I don't really care what you call me. Call me a millionaire, though. what does another year at IU even look like for him? I know the wrist injury really hurt him and his ability to shoot, but it's not like he got healthy and then started shooting the ball well in the NBA. That's just always been an issue for him. For his NBA career, he's a 28% three-point shooter. Like, I know the wrist injury is something a lot of people look back on, and it led to his season not going maybe as well as it could have. But the wrist injury isn't why he was a poor shooter. So he struggled with that as well. He could have come back to Indiana. Indiana wasn't, I mean, it was the COVID season. You don't have to really factor that in, but like, he wouldn't have led the team to a tournament necessarily. There was no tournament. That was Trayce's freshman year. I guess there would have been some fun crossover between Trayce and Romeo playing together as two of the better Indiana recruits during that period. But I mean, outside of that, there wasn't, I don't think another year at Indiana would have really changed a lot. He is who he is, he largely speaking is the same player he was at Indiana in terms of like his game style. He's not someone that left Indiana, his wrist got healthy, and then suddenly he was a 37% three-point shooter. And he could do all sorts he could handle the ball and become a playmaker, and none of that really happened after he left Indiana. So ultimately, it wasn't the wrong move to leave. He went to the NBA, got a lot of money, and there's still money to be had, that he can still earn. Like I said, you carve out a role, you find your opportunity, you earn a couple more veteran minimum contracts, and that's a couple more $1 million you're making. He's still 23 years old. He's not even going to be 24 before the season starts. He has a ton of time to figure things out, and he's still going to get a lot of opportunities because he is 23-year-old. He could give the NBA 2-3 more years and then go have a successful international career if he wants it, or just not do basketball anymore. At that point, he'll have millions of dollars. So, I mean, nothing about what he did was the wrong move. And I really don't know that anything would have changed if he stuck around at IU. Not for him personally. IU basketball might have been a little more watchable, so as a fan, I might have liked it a little bit more. But there was only so much you could do for Archie ball. Like, it was still going to suck. It was just going to be, with more talented players, it would have been bad. So he's in an interesting spot now. I would imagine he's going to try to go with an NBA team. He could look to just go straight overseas. I think he still has a future trying to cut or kind of carve out that role, like I said, in the NBA. I'll keep you updated if there are any rumors about him, but I looked before the show, and outside of Celtics fans saying they would be interested in bringing him back, that's about all that there was. Maybe he goes back to the Celtics. I think he probably needs somewhere where he can at least have a shot to play, but when you're on year 5 in your NBA career, there aren't a lot of shots you're going to continue to get. Like, even at 23 years old, NBA teams move quick. NBA franchises move quick and leave you in the dust. So he's got to start making moves and proving something about his NBA career, because he's really struggled to do so at this point. Let's look at the rest of NBA free agency. There was a lot of Hoosiers on the move this summer. We'll let you know who went where, as well as one very interesting international free agent and Yogi Ferrell. What the latest on him is. Not a name we mentioned hardly at all. We'll get you updated on all that here in a moment. So a number of former Hoosiers, almost all of them in the NBA, made some move this summer. OG Anunoby is the only one who hasn't yet. I don't think he's going to be traded, but this time next year, he might be on a different team. Seems like a matter of when, not if, when it comes to him. Everybody else made a move of some sort. We'll start with Eric Gordon, who's still kicking it around in the NBA. He signed a 2-year deal with the Phoenix Suns for the veterans minimum. He was someone that absolutely could have got a lot more money in free agency. There were talks of him getting the mid-level exception at $12 million a year, but he is going to a Suns team where he's going to have a really big role, a big role with a team that needed as many cheap role players as they could get. So Eric Gordon's someone that, again, has made a lot of money in his career, $176 million in NBA contracts. He took a pay cut. He went to a team to try to help them be a winner. He's going to get a lot of minutes, a lot of time on the floor with the Suns, with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. He'll be a guy out there for sure. I think he'll probably close a lot of games for them. So he's going to feature heavily on that team. A big opportunity for him, probably one of his last chances to go chase a ring. He tried it for years in Houston, and they came really damn close. He's given it a couple more go arounds. I think he can hang around in the NBA for a little while to try to ring chase. I don't blame anybody for trying to ring chase. I would do it. If nothing else, he's earning 3.1, almost $3.2 million per year on his current veterans minimum. And so I would get paid a lot less than $3 million to sit the bench and watch NBA games. Cody Zeller, he goes to the Pelicans on a veterans minimum. Everybody that we're going to mention went to their teams on a veterans minimum. Now, Eric Gordon, EJ was the only one that could have gotten more. The other guys probably could not have. Cody Zeller, he played with the Heat in the playoffs, and he really struggled. But again, largely speaking, when he's been healthy, he's been someone that's been a positive for teams. He's kind of bounced around the last couple of years after leaving the Hornets, went to the Blazers. Things didn't really work out there. He signed late in the season for the Heat. He played. I don't know that it was great, but it was good enough to earn him a chance with the Pelicans. He signed a veterans minimum that is, again, $3.2 million he'll be making next season. I happily would take that. He is someone that, even for, it's hard to call these guys bust, but he was a number 4 overall pick. Even for someone that has had a disappointing career, he's made $75, almost $76 million in his career. This is what I'm going to keep harping on when talking about Romeo Langford, kind of going back to that point. Even when you're bad in the NBA, you have generational wealth. So Cody Zeller, he'll be on a Pelicans team where he's probably not going to get a whole lot of playing time unless there's injuries. He's, I think, at a point in his career where he's kind of a veteran leader. It's a young Pelicans team that I think can use his veteran leadership. So if he kind of embraces that role and excels in it, he could get a couple more seasons in the NBA. But in terms of on-court impact, he struggles to be an impactful player, and his body was breaking down during his kind of prime years. I can only imagine what it'll do later on in his career. Thomas Bryant, he was someone that had a really interesting season because when it began with the Lakers, he was a man on fire, and he looked really good, set to earn a whole lot of money this offseason. The Lakers started to make some moves, and Thomas Bryant asked for a trade out of Los Angeles because he didn't think he was going to get playing time. The Lakers obliged. They traded him to Denver. It was a win-lose move because he goes to Denver, he wins a title, and he was absolutely not played under any circumstances that season. Once the playoffs came around, I don't know what he did, why it happened, what the situation was, but he absolutely was not played at all. So he won a title. He has an NBA ring, but he left town right away. He signed with the Miami Heat on a 2-year deal, 2 years at the veterans minimum, which is $2.5 million. It's a player option for year 2. So that is a place he'll get minutes. He'll get another opportunity to show that he can be a legitimate NBA player. It really stunk because I think if he would have probably stuck around the Lakers, he would have gotten playing time and he would have had more opportunities. And I think he probably would have had a bigger contract this season. Instead, he rolled the dice a bit and it failed. And well, relatively speaking, he won a ring, but he didn't really do a lot to earn that ring necessarily, not in terms of game action. So he'll get another chance to try to earn a bigger contract with Miami this year. Last one, Victor Oladipo was traded from the Heat. So there will not be a Thomas Bryant, Victor Oladipo reunion of any sorts. I guess they were never on the same team. A meeting of the minds will not happen. Oladipo was traded to the Thunder, which would have been a cool coming home story, except Vic is injured, and I don't know that he's going to play at all this season. He might play a little bit, but I think I would be surprised if he plays this season. So he's back where he was at one point in his career, but he's going to be rehabbing most this year. He's going to make $9.4 million to rehab, but I don't know that he'll play much this season. We'll see. It's such a bummer story. I get so frustrated with Victor Oladipo's story. It's injuries, and he was on the JJ Redick podcast. If you guys want to go search that out, he talked about his injury history. I know a lot of Pacers fans probably remember him, his time there, obviously, and the injuries. I know we talked about this back when he appeared on there, but he goes in detail about his injuries and how much they weren't his fault. There were surgeries that were done wrong that led to other injuries, and it's kind of snowballed from there for him. So it gets really sad to talk about his career at this point because of the injuries that are piling up. He's still he's made plenty of money. He'll be making $9 million this year, but again, the mental toll that must take is rough. Yogi Ferrell, not an NBA free agent, but someone that is coming off a really successful season. He found a home in Slovenia. I'm going to try to say the team name. Cedevita Olimpia. He found a place where he really excelled. Last season in the league, he averaged 16 points, 6 assists, shot 45% from the field. In the Euro Cup, he averaged 18 points, 5 assists, shot 45% from the field, and 40% from three. He had a really strong season. With the team, he won 2 Slovenian titles, 2 Slovenian Cups, a Slovenian Super Cup. Don't ask me what all those are, but he has a lot of titles and trophies while playing overseas. And now he's being sought out by some bigger clubs. Galatasaray is one of them. They're a very big club, and they're in Turkey. There's an Italian team that is also scouting him and looking into signing him. So he's going to take a big step up in terms of where he'll be playing in Europe next season. That's what I mean. It's the same thing as I was saying with Romeo, with other people, is that he's someone that spent a couple years trying to do it in the NBA. Eventually it didn't work out, and he's gone on and had a successful European career. He's still 30 years old. He's going to go to a big team and play for a talented if it's Galatasaray, that's one of the best teams in Europe. So like that's a really good team he's going to sign with. That shows that the NBA isn't the only path, even if it is the most profitable, the most kind of successful, whatever it may be, the most well-known path. It isn't the only path, and you can still carve out a nice career playing elsewhere. So it's just cool to see that Yogi has found somewhere where he can have success and continue playing. He was one of my favorite Hoosiers. I mean, really, until Trayce Jackson-Davis, he was my favorite Hoosier. So glad to see him excelling over in Europe. This show ran a little long. I apologize, but I hope you guys enjoy all the latest updates on the free agents Thanks as always for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every single day. Every dayers again on Wednesday, we'll do the latest updates on recruiting when it comes to the Hoosiers. Derek Queen, Liam McNeely, Flory Badunga. We'll get all the latest on those guys and decisions that could be coming in the next month, 2 months. We'll see. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a rating and review. That helps us out a ton. Most importantly, I hope everybody starts their week off right. I hope you have a great Monday. And as always, Elio.